I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Wilkins Melgar. I'm one of our ED mentors here on campus. If you have any questions regarding our program that we have, or would like to know more about what a UD mentor does and our responsibilities, you'll probably see, as you have, us wearing our polos around, we'll be in the hallways, etc. And any one of us will be free to tell you a little more information. So, I'd like to introduce our first presenter here. So Taylor is a senior here at UVU and is a future graduate student in the Woodbury School of Business. This information will also be found in the pamphlets that are in your swag bags. So, Taylor considers himself a student of life. He believes that we can learn a lot from the observance of others. Because Taylor has personally learned a great deal from the example of others, he makes a concerted effort to pay attention as his mentors and peers work through issues and concerns they face every day. Taylor hopes to share with you how he can consciously learn from individuals' lives and apply that lesson into our own life. So bringing the power of belief and how to live it. Welcome, Taylor Wilson.
Thank you very much, my friend. Like you said, my name is Taylor Wilson. I'm a senior here, and I heard that Zach and Cameron may or may not have mentioned my name right as I walked out to get ready for this. So I'm the Taylor they were talking about. I'm currently the president of the Student Alumni Association here on campus, and fun facts, we've been able to build on the success that Zach and Cam started. Just for some more information, they increased the membership up to 160, 200 people. We've now increased that again by 65%, sorry. No, 70%. We've increased it by 70%, and our event attendance has increased by 65%. So when Zach and Cameron talk about what they started here, it's become a pretty big thing here on campus, and it's getting bigger and bigger. Our event actually next month is expected to break records by 300%. So it's pretty exciting things to be a part of, and I think UVU is one of those unique places where we can really have those leadership opportunities. So what I want to present on today says the title of my presentation is The Power to Believe and How to Achieve It. I really want to focus on the aspect of that, of learning from other people, because I think that a lot of these presentations, and they're all great, but we never talk about that. I mean, I've never heard that before when I go to a presentation, is how to learn from someone else. How do you actually pay attention? What do you look for? How do you look for it? How do you apply it? Those are the things that I want to talk about today. So in beginning that, I'd like to share a little video clip first. It'll pull up. Just a few minutes. So we'll share this.
One of a wizard's most rudimentary skills is levitation, or the ability to make objects fly. Do you have your feathers? Good. Now, don't forget the nice wrist movement we've been practicing. The swish and flick. Everyone? Swish and flick. Good. Oh, and enunciate. Wingardium Leviosa. Off you go then.
Wingardium Leviosa. Wingardium Leviosa. Stop. You're going to take some of Ireland. Besides, you're saying it wrong. It's Leviosa, not Leviosa. You do it if you're so clever. Go on. Wingardium Leviosa. Wingardium Leviosa.
Oh, well done! See here, everyone. This grade has done it. Splendid.
Wingardium Leviosa. I think we're going to need another feather over here, Professor.
Okay. So a little fun example. He obviously didn't learn the right way from his professor or from Hermione watching it doing the right way. Another fun example, well not fun I guess, it's a little depressing, but Jurassic Park, right? it's a great idea, right? You build it, they will come. You bring dinosaurs back to life, people are going to be interested to come see it. Obviously, if you've seen the movie or even heard of the movie, it didn't go well. Before the park even opens, people die and dinosaurs get loose, okay? But who knew someone else was going to try it, right? Maybe someone else is going to try it. Right? We try it again. Because we couldn't learn the first time that dinosaurs kill you. We're going to try it again. Not only did we try it twice, we tried it 3 times. If that wasn't good enough, 10 years later, we're going to try it again. And in a couple years from now, they're going to try it again. So the thing that they're not learning, obviously, from this is what? They're not learning from their past mistakes. Okay, this is a bad example. Don't learn, or you need to learn from these mistakes, right? Now let's go to a good example and pay tribute a little bit. The Apollo 1 mission. If you know anything about the Apollo 1 mission, it failed pretty badly, actually. These 3 astronauts died. It's a very sad, it's a sad event that happened, but NASA, thank goodness, found a little bit of knowledge and good out of it, and they improved things to be able to pave the way for the future with Apollo 2 and with the Apollo missions throughout the rest of how they went. And obviously there were still mistakes, but they learned from them. That's the key point. The moral of the story for each of these is that they learned from others. They learned from past mistakes, and they learned how they can improve upon themselves. Okay, so, why is it important to learn from others? I want to open that question up for you. What's your name?
Will.
Will. Nice to meet you.
Other people have tried things, maybe things we're trying to do, and maybe they can be an example or mentor that we talk about it.
Perfect. What was your name?
Angel,
Will Angel. You my guess.
you get more of like more broader ideas, like not just one thing, but you know, other people could have something else you can learn other ideas.
You can, I'm Brian.
Brian.
You can hopefully learn from other mistakes, and so you can progress quicker by not repeating those mistakes.
It's kind of the old thing we get sick of hearing from our parents, right? I have done it already, so you don't need to do it. That's why I did it, so that I could teach you, right? And then we get to the ages that we're at now, we're like, holy crap, they were right. we shouldn't be doing these things. We should have paid attention. Okay? All right, anyone else before I move on have anything they'd like to share about why it's important to learn from others? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on then. So there's a quote I want to share. I'm not quite sure why the mouse isn't working, so I'll just go manual. The only source of knowledge is experience. Okay? And Albert Einstein shared this. So we can kind of lump sum all of your comments into that one principle, that knowledge comes from experience, and those that have more experience than us tend to have more knowledge based on this quote, right? And there's all sorts of experience. There's all sorts of knowledge. I mean, you always look to grandparents as the wise ones of the family because they've had a longer life. But it's not just grandparents, it's people that have experience in different areas. Maybe you're looking to you're working to work in a computer science field, right? You're gonna go to the people who have more experience to teach you, whether they're older or not. They're gonna be the ones that have more experience and the wisdom to offer you as an up and coming in that industry. And you can apply that principle to anything. It's about who you know and how they can share what they've learned onto you. That's the way to live a lasting legacy as well, is to be able to share what you know to be true with other people and to carry on that knowledge so that it can be built upon. We don't have to start from scratch every time someone starts into a new field. We can build upon what's already there. And it's important for us to recognize that as the students. That's the perspective that this presentation is coming from right now, is as the students, the people looking for the life lessons from these other people. All right, moving on to the next question. Who can we learn from? It was God. We can learn from everybody, and I'm going to give a couple examples throughout the presentation of people that I've learned from. I'm going to invite you to be able to do the same, maybe some life lessons you've learned from good experiences, some bad. I'm going to share one of both. So it's important to know and to go into life knowing that we can learn from everybody, and here's going to be one of my first experiences. I'm a member of the LDS Church, and I served a mission a couple years ago in Brisbane, Australia. And I'm sure everyone's seen the door knockers before, and we would have another religion that was there door knocking with us as well. And they tend to have a bad rap where I was in Australia, and they were known to be very aggressive very morbid, well, not morbid, that's the right word, very negative with their approach, kind of trying to guilt you into the lesson. And they were very pushy. And we would kind of get lumped into that stereotype sometimes, which wasn't always the funnest, but sadly, over time, that stereotype began to come into my mind as well. By the end of the 2 years, I found myself having that same type of viewpoint because of experiences that I had had. So one morning, I had about 2 weeks left before I went home. So I'm literally at the end of my 2 years. And we walked out of our apartment one morning, and there was a couple people from this religion. And in my mind, I was thinking, oh crap, we're going to be here for a while. We're going to be late to our appointment. We're going to be this, that. We're going to get into an argument. And I went and met these people, and they were amazing. They were some of the kindest, most sincere people I've ever met. We talked about how it is going door to door, some things that we have seen work, some things that we've noticed that people respond to us with, or things that we see don't work. We actually talked, and for lack of a better word, we helped each other. It was, after thinking about it, I had a little bit of a rebuke to myself to think, I went into this experience with a negative attitude that these people were going to cause an argument and that we were going to be here for a while trying to defend ourselves and our position on what we do. And that's not what it was at all. They were sincere, they took an interest in us, and we were able to have a very beneficial conversation as a result of it. And it taught me a really important lesson that I am grateful that I've learned, is that we can learn from everybody. It's sometimes the most unexpected people that provide the best lessons in our lives. And it's something that I've tried to implement throughout the rest of my life, especially if I find myself having that same mindset, is I try to fix it like that, because that's going to prevent me from learning a lesson if I'm not willing to have my mind open to that lesson. So I'm very grateful for that experience that I had. I consider that a good experience. A bad experience is, and I'm going to bring in politics very levelly, we don't want to get over-carried with this in here. The GOP debate a couple weeks ago where they were at each other's throats. I consider this a bad experience because they honestly sounded like children up there. Just little petty comments about, well, you did this, like your mom. It was the dumbest little cutbacks and the worst arguments that I've ever seen, especially from a national campaign. You would hope to never see something like that. And again, keeping this at a very minimal, you probably see my face around, I'm doing that right now on UVU. I'm campaigning for a position in student government. And I watched that debate thinking, I do not want my debate to be like that. I do not want to be seen as someone who is calling out the opposition just because of this menial little character trait. And I hope that I was able to do that. I really tried to be able to be civil and to be fair and to be respectful in my debate. And I learned that lesson from watching the GOP debate, because the pride they had, the anger, the selfishness that they each had, it was so apparent, and it was so sad to see that that's what was going on a nationally televised debate for our president. It was a bad experience that I learned from. So, let's open up the floor. I'm sure we've each had some of these experiences where we've had both good lessons and bad lessons from other people around us. Let's hear some of them. Who'd be willing to share any lessons that they've learned that maybe surprised them? Somebody? Yeah. Haley?
So I'm a part of the UV Mentoring Program, and before I became a part of the UV Mentoring Program, I was very judgmental. On like the surface level, like I didn't mean to be, but I was. And once I joined the UV Mentoring Program, I realized that like you can't base people's appearances off of like what you judge them on. And even like things that they do or they say, like it's how they treat you, and how they treat people, and that's really what you have to base judgment on if you're going to judge at all. Because, like you said, you can literally learn from everyone. I believe that you are in certain situations at times in your life, every time in your life, to influence and be influenced with others. So, that's it.
Thank you very much for sharing. And I know you a little bit. I don't consider you judgmental at all. So you've learned the lesson that you were hoping to learn. Anyone else have anything they'd like to share before we move on? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on then. To how can we learn from other people? And what are some ways that we can do this? Because it's all fun and games to talk about it, but then it gets down to the application of it. And that's the hardest part. That's the hardest part with everything. We can talk all we want, but once it comes down to the action, it requires a little bit more work. Cody?
You have to realize that you're not perfect, that you have areas to learn in that other people are going to be better than you are, and take from their example. And then when they're not better than you, you should really have areas that you can grow from. And no matter, like I said, everyone can teach you a lesson. And so, being humble and finding that piece of knowledge that you need to learn.
You can find it. It's great. Anyone else have any points they'd like to share on how they learn from other people?
Doing a class now with Dr. Susan Manson, I think he is this year. And her leadership class, we took the class, take the test to find your strengths. And then what we do is try to build a team by what's your strengths and what's somebody else's strengths. You don't want to find somebody else with your same strength. You want somebody else with something that can bring more than what you have, so you can make a bigger whole. So the idea is true leadership knows your strengths, knows your weaknesses, and tries to learn from the people that are good at what they do. And let them teach you how. So if you're taking your strength, teaching them, and then taking their strength and learning from them. Like you said, be humble about it. You don't know it.
We don't know everything, as much as we would like to. And those are a couple points that we're actually going to go over. Is there any others that you'd like to share?
Step back and observe instead of trying to compete, watch someone else how they do it instead of thinking you can do it better than them.
We're going to go over all three of those points. So great job, guys. This is awesome. Let's read a quote first, though. To acquire knowledge, one must study, but to acquire wisdom, one must observe. And that goes back to the point that we can do as much on our own as we want, but when it comes to being able to really be a true student of life and applying the best life lessons, it comes from wisdom, and wisdom comes from observing, just like you said. And Mary Voss Savin, sorry, I can never get her name right, is the one who said this. So we're going to go through each of those points that you just said. The first one, to pay attention. If you want to learn something, that's the first step to doing it, is pay attention. And don't just pay attention in class, don't just pay attention in meetings where there's a mentor that you consider to be in your life. Pay attention everywhere you go. Because like I said before, some of the greatest life lessons come in the most unexpected moments. So pay attention to those around you. Make an effort to create that mindset at the beginning of each day of, I'm going to learn something new today. I don't know how, I don't know where, and I don't know who from. So I better be watching. That's the mindset to have. And with that, you can improve on your ability to listen to your conscience. That's what we're going to call it today, is your conscience. What is your conscience? What do you consider your conscience to be? Think about that for a second. What do you consider your conscience to be? It's different for everybody. A lot of people have their own ideas and opinions about what a conscience is or what a conscience provides for you. Let's hear it.
For example, people have different values. And when you have a conscience, you are comparing, these are my values. Therefore, I have to proceed this way. And sometimes we change values. We value time, sometimes more than friendship or more than education. So, we always constantly changing. Sometimes for the better.
And I think it's important to, like you said, discover how it is that we see that. Because just as important it is we have to be able to listen to it. We have to be able to recognize it and then listen to what it's saying. For me, my conscience is a very big part of my life. What I consider to be my conscience is a driving force for a lot of decisions that I make. It's a driving force for a lot of situations that I will allow or not allow myself to be in. It's a pretty big part of my life. It's something I consider to be my greatest compass or my greatest guide in my life. So it's become a really important piece of how I seek to apply these lessons that I hope to learn from other people, to acquire this wisdom that I'm hoping to acquire in my own life. So with your conscience and with these lessons that you feel, once you learn how to discover it, to listen to your conscience, to really channel into that and understand what it is saying to you, you have to keep track of it, right? So here comes the important point of writing it down. We hear that all the time as students throughout our lives, that if you want to accomplish something, you got to write it down because it puts it to paper, it's something visual, it makes it more real. And I'm a firm believer in that. Everyone has their own methods. I used to be the write it on paper and keep it in a journal. I've now transitioned over to keeping it in a phone. Like I have my own journal on here that I keep everything in. But you need to write it down. If you're thinking about it, write it down. Because everything can turn into something when it's the right time. So as soon as your conscience speaks to you in that way, write it down and make sure you keep track of that life lesson so you can come back to it. And then set some goals to apply it. We're going to talk about goal setting a little bit later on, but I can't stress enough, write it down as soon as you have that feeling, because that's what's going to make it stick in your mind and allow you to go back to it again. Yeah. And then let's get some input on that actually, because I'm sure I'm not the only one who's had ways to keep track of these inspirations that you've had in your life. What are some ways that you've been able to keep track of it? Like I said, I write them down in a journal on my phone. What are some other ways that you guys do that?
Well, I know it's hard when you're driving, because we all drive, and sometimes you get some awesome epiphanies, I guess you can say, when you're driving. You can't write it down, so most phones have a little recording device, just record. I've done a couple that way. I'm going to forget this. You just record it.
That's a very successful way to do it. A lot of musicians do that, be able to record melodies or song ideas. That's a great way to be able to do that. Any other ways that you have done this for yourselves?
I just tell people, like if something is like on my mind, I just like want to tell everybody, and that way like it's like I remember what I said or what I thought because I told somebody.
It's an accountability thing almost. That you're holding yourself accountable by telling someone else.
Yeah.
That's a very effective way. I like that way a lot actually. All right, we'll go ahead and move on if no one else has anything they'd like to share. Okay, another quote. I'm kind of a junkie for quotes. It fulfills my learning from other people. So, it's impossible to be involved in all situations, but there's no excuse not to be involved in something, somewhere, somehow, with someone. Okay, and we will have Rochelle Eater-Rich come and say that for us. I want you to think about that for a second, because this is a very important principle, and I can probably tell you this is the biggest principle I've learned since being here at Utah Valley University. So I want you to think about this quote, and I want you to try and relate it to yourself. It's impossible to be involved in all situations, but there's no excuse not to be involved in some. What does that mean for you? What does involvement mean for you in your life? What are you doing right now to be involved in your life? I'll tell you my story, my Utah Valley University story is fairly similar to Zach's actually. This is my second year here. This is my senior year. I graduate in April and begin my master's in the fall. So 2 years ago, I started my undergrad. I started my bachelor's degree here at UVU. I went to class, I went home, and my joke is that I dated my mother. I went home at nights and watched TV with my mom, which as much I love my mom to death. She's an amazing woman who's taught me a lot, but that's not very college. That's not the purpose of, that's very fun college, if anything. So I went to Colorado Exactive the following semester. It was fall of 2014, looking for something to do. And I literally walked the whole entire courtyard. I walked by every booth, looking at everything they had to offer. I would stop at things that interested me, and it so happened to be the very first booth I stopped at was the Student Alumni Association booth, because they had a big old sign that said, "Stop being boring." I was like, oh, I'm dating my mother, so that's exactly what I want to do right now, is to not be boring. And I went and talked to them. I loved what they had to say, but I told them, I want to go see what else there is. I want to go see what else UVU's offering. And they stuck in my mind the whole entire time. Every booth I went to, I was just like, stop being boring, stop being boring, stop being boring. It's almost like psyching myself up and just finally sign up. So I did. After I walked everywhere, I went back, I signed up, and I became just a member of the Student Alumni Association. So I went to the events, I committed to myself, I'm going to go to these events, I'm going to meet people, and I'm going to change my college experience. The only goal I had out of this was to create memories for college. That's it. There was nothing beyond that. I wanted to be able to tell my grandkids that I had a good time in college, pretty much. As I got more and more involved, I fell more and more in love not only with student alumni, but with UVU and with the opportunities that UVU provides. So I went to Zach as the president at that time and said, Zach, I really want to get involved in this. I really want to be a part of this organization on an administrative level. And he very graciously, I don't know what made him do this, but I'm grateful that he did. His executive vice president was leaving, and he offered me that position, the executive vice president. So I went from just 4 months ago doing nothing to now becoming the executive vice president of the Student Alumni Association. And that was the catalyst to change the direction of my life for good. Since then, I have changed what I'm studying in my graduate programs. I'm going to study an MBA. I become the president of the Student Alumni Association, which has allowed me to work with other various boards on campus, the alumni board, the foundation board, as well as collaborate with other organizations on campus and get to know them, which has been a great blessing. That networking has been huge, and it all came from one decision to just get involved, to do something. Becoming a leader on this campus was not even in my mindset when I started and joined the Student Alumni Association. But it's an outcome that has come as a result of making that decision. And it all stemmed from the desire to get involved. And while my story may be a little bit extreme about how fast it went or the level of leadership that I've gotten to, but you don't have to get involved in something like that to learn from other people. You just have to get involved. Think of the things that you already do. If you go to school, you have professors, you have other classmates. Within your family, if you go do activities with each other, you can learn. Your extended family. If you're a part of any type of religion, when you go to your church meetings or other meetings, there's plenty of people there for you to learn from. If you join a committee, any type of club outside of the school, everywhere there are opportunities for you to get involved and to learn from other people. And it's simply our choice and the choice that we need to make. I believe that we can get involved throughout our entire lives, and that we should get involved throughout our entire lives. So that's going to be an invitation that I leave to you right now. Don't worry, I'm not finishing right now, but that's an invitation I want to leave to you is commit to being involved in something the rest of your life. Because one, it'll give you an opportunity to learn. Two, it'll give you an opportunity to serve. And that in turn will give you more joy in your life. Service brings joy. Getting involved brings joy. So that's an invitation that I'm leaving with you right now, is to get involved throughout your entire lives. All right. Let's move on. Another quote. Humility is the true key to success. Successful people lose their way at times. They often embrace and overindulge from the fruits of success. Humility halts this arrogance and self-indulgence trap. Humble people share the credit and wealth, remaining focused and hungry to continue the journey of success. I'm going to share with who said this because he is a pretty successful person in the field that he works in. Strick Pitino. He's a college basketball coach, does have a lot of success in his career. And it's a great principle to see someone like a coach, someone who has such an impact on other people throughout his career and his everyday life, not only with his players, but for the fans of that university, the other people at that university, and anyone who watches and sees what he does with his life. And one of the principles that he makes sure he teaches is humility. Cody, why is it that you talked about humility? Why is humility such an important factor for you?
Because if you don't have humility within yourself to improve, you're not going to improve. Because humility enables you to be susceptible to improvement, and it allows you to grow. It really does.
I think with that, an outcome that comes from the humility that you just described is that it provides an image for yourself. Not intentionally, I don't believe, but it provides a expression that others see that is welcoming. It provides an image that you are there to help people, that you're approachable, and that you're willing to serve. Which, I don't know very many people that don't want that type of image on themselves, that don't want people to think highly of them and be able to know that they can count on them. I haven't met very many people that don't want that. And humility is one of the first and fundamental principles to making that happen for ourselves in each of our lives. And I have another experience I'd like to share. I was serving on a committee where I didn't personally believe they were doing as much to help my specific responsibilities as I believed. And I had a partner in this. We didn't feel like we were being supported the way that we need to. And so my immature 19-year-old brain thought, oh, I tough love, right? Just gonna lay it down and it'll make a difference. So I went into a meeting and I kind of called them out and saying, you're not helping us enough. We need this, we need this, we need this. Step up your game. That's essentially what I said. And I felt all tough, high and mighty afterwards, like, yeah, 19 years old, I just told all these people to do this. And I left that meeting feeling like we accomplished something good. Yeah, I went to another training session with one of my managers at this afterwards, and I had no idea what was about to happen, but he called me up to do a little object lesson role play. Okay. So I'm just assuming, oh, okay. He does this all the time, I'm not worried. I get up there and he sits me down and he explains to me what the situation is going to be in this role play. As soon as he says it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm about to get killed. I'm about to get rebuked with no mercy. And I did, but in a very professional, in a very positive way. He sat me down and we recreated the situation and asked me, how would you feel if you were the manager of this group and you just had some 19-year-old kid that's an invited guest come and say this to you and your board? How would you feel? And I sat there for a second, like, oh, I feel really bad. I feel like, well, there's this kid that thinks that he can tell us what to do. It was a pretty humbling experience for me, and I got cut at the knees a little bit that day in a very good way. It brought me down to a more humble plane where I could recognize a better way of doing things. And since then, again, I've really tried to pride myself on making myself open and willing to learn from other experiences and to not assume that I know everything. We brought that up already in this presentation, that we don't know everything. None of us know everything. And I had to learn that the hard way. That's a pattern in my life. I tend to learn things the hard way. And that was an experience that I'm very grateful for, not only for the experience, but for the individual who taught me this experience. His name is Payne McMillan. He's become one of my best advisors in my life. I don't talk to him very much, but when I'm making decisions or thinking about what I hope to achieve in my life, he's one of those people that I look to as a model for what I would like to become. And it all started when he taught me this lesson. Simple as it is, it has changed my life. All right, we've talked a lot about how we can learn what it is that we're looking for. Let's briefly talk about how we can apply these lessons. Okay, so I want you to think about that question. How can we apply these lessons? Think about that for yourself in some effective ways that you've seen in your life. How do we apply these lessons that we've heard?
I'm from the old school. I learned from books.
From books?
Listening to audiobooks while I'm driving. There's so many information about other cultures, other experience, people who have different experiences that you can learn from.
And it's a lot of education that comes from that, a lot of wisdom that comes from books. That's a great point.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're not gonna apply them unless you actually want to. So like, if you want to change, then you will, and it will almost happen like subconsciously. Like, it's like a flip in your brain, like, oh, like, I'm actually gonna start, like, for me, like, I was automatically almost like non-judgmental. Like, when I learned the lesson, I was like, oh, like, I can't be that way, you know? And it wasn't like consciously like, oh, I'm judging, like, I can't do that. Like, it was just like automatically. And it's because I wanted to be that way. I wanted to learn.
It's essentially that goal setting.
Exactly like she said, once you learn those principles and you internalize it, it becomes part of you. So you actually use it everywhere. You cannot just use it one time or just at work, Once you learn those principles, you use it at home, when you're taking trips, in school, your career, everything.
It becomes a part of who you are, your character. Thank you. And I think that each of these is a very great way to be able to learn these points and how we can become a student of life. And one in particular that I'd like to share with you today has helped me is goal setting. There's one quote that I would like to share and this is a very powerful quote, and the reason that I chose to use it. says that I'm so thoroughly convinced that if we don't set goals in our life and learn how to master the techniques of living to reach our goals, we can reach a ripe old age and look back on our life only to see that we reached but a small part of our full potential. When one learns to master the principles of setting a goal, he will then be able to make a great difference in the results he attains in this life. Goal setting is one of the greatest things I've ever learned in my life. Is not only the importance of it, but how to do it. And I believe that with everything in our life, to make a change, it starts with a goal, and it starts with a plan to achieve that goal. And it applies just as much to what we were talking about of learning from other people as it does to anything else, okay? So we should be setting goals because it's all, like we've said before, we can talk about it all we want, we can look for these lessons all we want, but we need to figure out how we're going to apply it. That's the purpose of the lesson, is to apply it in our own lives. Okay? So, what should we focus on when setting goals? You can customize this to yourself, but I'm going to share with you a couple of areas of emphasis that I personally focus on when I'm seeking to set a goal. Okay? First is spiritual. And I don't mean religion when I say this, I mean just your internal compass, your internal being, whether it's a God that you believe in, gods that you believe in, any type of supreme being, or whether it's nature, whatever it is. You really need to get in touch with yourself and be able to understand what your very core self is saying to you. So set goals to be able to listen to that, to be able to understand that. Another one is mental. We need to be able to be mentally sound and strong to be able to reach our full effectiveness. We can do this through reading books. We can do this through brain exercises, whatever you want to do, but it's just strengthening that mental ability to stay sharp and to stay forward-looking. Okay. Physical. It's a very underlooked quality, I think, in our society today, is our health. Physical doesn't just mean not breaking any bones or anything like that. It means staying fit. And fit can be whatever it is to you, but it's making sure that you're doing all that you personally can do for your situation to make sure that your body is going to be able to be responsive and alert when these opportunities do come where you can learn from other people. And then social. A good social life, a healthy social life is crucial to a happy life. So these are some areas of emphasis that I have chosen to focus on in my life. And then when you've set these goals and you're seeking to accomplish them, you have to have patience. Okay? I love this quote. The key to everything is patience. You get the chicken by hatching the egg, not by smashing it. Okay? You're not going to become an expert overnight. You can't expect yourself to be an expert overnight. You have to be patient. You have to be willing to put in the time. Right? You hear a lot of, I'm very into music, so music is something that has become a large part of what I base my life on, and a lot of musicians say you have to put in like 10,000 hours to become an expert at the instrument, so that's a lot of time, and it requires a lot of patience, but they do it. And we can each do that in our respective areas of life. Be patient, put in the time, and become the best that we possibly can be in that area of focus that we are seeking to be a part of. And Arnold H. Glasso is the one who said that. So, in closing, thank you for being a part of this presentation with me. Thank you for taking the time to be at this conference. I mean, you being here alone is you getting involved in showing that you're willing to learn from other people. And I applaud you for that. Thank you for being here. And I encourage you and invite you to pay attention throughout the day and take the different ideas and insights that you've had, seek to apply them into your life. Okay? And then be confident in yourself. Be confident in the ideas that you have. Even if the speaker doesn't say them, if you get an idea because of what they said, that's customized specifically for you, and that's gold for you. So pay attention to those and be confident in your ability to make changes in your life. We're all able to do it. The only difference between a successful person and a non-successful person is the attitude to be successful. So with that, I again thank you for coming, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day of this presentation. Thank you. It's 10 minutes of questions.
Yeah, 10 minutes, questions and answers. And then real quick for you guys for feedback, there's also a pen in your swag bags. So if you could fill out the feedback, and then on your way out, walk past the desk, and we'll exchange that feedback for one of the tickets for the prize drawings later today. So go for it. Questions?
I'll come out from behind the podium so a little bit more. Would anyone like to ask questions? Taylor?
Why did you choose this topic? What made you want to
like talk about this today?
About learning from other people.
Yes.
I chose this topic because it's something that I've noticed I've been doing a lot in my life. I've never given a presentation on this topic, so you were the first to hear me talk about this at all. But it's something that I've noticed throughout my life that I have a lot of people I've learned from, especially since being at UVU, like I shared, is that I've had a lot of great mentors here that have inspired me and that have made me want to be a better role model for anyone who could be watching. And so I thought, well, that's an important topic to me, and I should share that.
Awesome, thank you.
Super simple.
Yes, out of all these, ingredients to determine the setting goals, being humble, patience, and learning from others, which one would be the number one that everybody needs? So we can
My opinion of that is that it is humility. There was a survey done that the purpose of the survey was to view what were the most important leadership qualities on average for the general person, and the most important one, it was in the top 3, was that the leaders who were value-driven were the ones that people respected and responded to the most. And humility is a value. Humility is one of those values that we have to make a decision to implement into our lives. And humility is teachability. It's the opportunity to become a better person. So everything that we talked about today has to stem from humility. It's a good question. I'm glad we can agree. Any other questions that people have? I'm curious, I had a burrito for breakfast this morning. Get that question out. No? Okay. Thank you again for being here.